Hello and welcome to this wonderfully warm Thursday here in the low veldt of South Africa. My name is Brent and Wium and I cannot wait to chat to you on this episode of Animal World Live. As you can see, it's a beautiful blue skies and sunny day here in the low veldt of South Africa. The Drakensberg mountains looking absolutely magnificent. And I'm in my garden, sitting in the shade, and just enjoying another wonderful day out here in the bush. We were out early this morning, and we were lucky enough to catch up with some wild dogs. The Melita pack this morning. But of course, earlier this week it was World Wildlife Day. So if you guys have any questions or comments about World Wildlife Day, anything you would like me to discuss in particular, I look forward to hearing from you. But at the moment I can say hello everyone, hi. Shamsan, yes, Wium and myself will be leaving very early tomorrow morning at about 4 a.m. to make the long trip down to KwaZulu-Natal. It's about 700 odd kilometers to go join James and Kirsten in their wedding celebrations. So that will be exciting, of course, but for now we're still in the wonderful low veldt, and as I said, we're out early this morning trying to catch up with the lions, looking at wild dogs. It was an absolutely spectacularly beautiful morning out there this morning, so it was wonderful. Now, of course, we are talking a little bit about wildlife conservation, and we are lucky enough to be in what is called the Wildlife Haven, which is a nickname for the Hoedsprays. We're completely surrounded by reserves and the estates here are little game reserves, so the housing estates of zebras and giraffe and the occasional wild dog, hyena, leopard. Of course, there's other estates that have lions, elephants, rhinos, and the rest. Oh, thank you, Darcy. Thank you very much. So we're lucky enough, and because we're in a sort of wildlife haven, we've got a lot of different conservation organizations that operate within this area, and we've been lucky enough to feature a few on Animal World Live, but just to mention a few of them, it's the Endangered Wildlife Trust. Of course, they've got multiple different projects with wild dogs, cheetah, and pangolins, pels, fishing owls, all sorts of things. So they've got quite a big presence in this area. And then, of course, also we chatted to the ground hornbill, the APNR ground hornbill research team, trying to up the numbers of that endangered bird in South Africa. And we have elephants alive, Rhino Revolution, scales, pangolin. So there's a lot. Oh, thank you, Marcy. So there's lots of different organizations that are operating in this area. And as I said, I'd love to hear some questions. There we go. What organizations do you recommend that support wildlife conservation? Do we recommend? Well, the ones I've just mentioned, the Endangered Wildlife Trust, most definitely. They do lots of very important work, particularly their large carnivore program, and that large carnivore program is the reason we have Mabai and Impy the cheetah that we see. That they are part of that large carnivore range expansion program. So very, very exciting stuff, and it's always great that we're actually increasing the numbers of critically endangered carnivores such as wild dogs and cheetahs, and reintroducing them to the areas where they have been expropriated. Oh, thank you, Vicky. Sinak, what is my favorite animal for World Wildlife Day, and how important is African wildlife for you and helping its conservation? Well, of course, without saying much, I'm pretty sure everyone's quite well aware that my favorite animal for World Wildlife Day is the African wild dog. It's my favorite animal, critically endangered, the second most endangered canid in Africa. Only the Ethiopian wolf has fewer members roaming free. And I mean, African wildlife is beyond important to me. It's my passion, it's my drive, It's why I get up in the morning, to go out there and spend time with these incredible animals and share them with you guys. So yes, African wildlife is incredibly important for me. And in terms of conservation, we do as much as we can to help the different conservation organizations and creating awareness by having shows like this, Animal World Live. So while you guys think up some really good questions, the magical Wium and Zander have got together a nice little clip of some wonderful wildlife for you guys to look at. If you come back down towards the fence, the dogs are here. There were vultures, I really had to do Wasn't that absolutely amazing? That's just some of the incredible highlights we've had at Painted Dog TV over the last year. We've been incredibly fortunate to actually get hands-on with the African wildlife, whether it be with dehorning the rhinos, catching the lions, bringing Impy the cheetah back, releasing the wild dogs. So we're very, very, very lucky to actually be able to get out there and be hands-on with the African wildlife and share it with you guys. Okay, I'm just going to have a quick look here, see what other wonderful questions we've got. Pam, are painted dogs related to American coyotes? Coyotes seem to act the same in many situations, especially all the whooping and hollering when finding food. Actually not. In the terms that they are canids, they are related, but the coyote is a canis, so much more closely related to Mahloa than the African wild dog. The African wild dogs split from the canis family about 1.6 million years ago, and their dentition is completely different. So they've actually got ripping teeth and a fused toe. So about 1.6 million years ago they split away from the canis. So a wolf is far more closely related to a coyote than a wild dog. Noel, we will definitely be featuring the people from Rhino Revolution at some point in the future. Can't wait to get Anna on here, and she can give you a bit of feedback about what's going on there. So Rhino Revolution, of course, not only does rhinos, but they're also one of the very few pangolin rehabilitation centers in the low veld. And currently their good news is that they don't have any pangolins. So that's something that a lot of people forget. It's actually a good thing when Rhino Revolution doesn't have orphaned rhinos with pangolins to look after. It means they're safe and out in the bush. Okay, I saw another good question. Now, dehorning the rhino was amazing. How's that project going? Well, very well. In the Richbreed Reserve, all the rhinos, both black and white, are dehorned, and that, of course, helps to stop poachers coming in. And slowly but surely, all the reserves, even the reserves just behind us here that are open to the greater Kruger, have also started dehorning. So Baluli, Olifants, Kaseri, Thornybush, Manyaleti are all dehorned at the moment. So very, very few reserves left that are not dehorned. Now, of course, this is by no means a solid and the only way to stop poachers, but it will force poachers to go further and further, especially if the whole population of rhinos is dehorned. Now, a lot of people think, oh, but what's the rhino going to do? How is it going to defend itself? Now, the only real thing a rhino uses its horn for is actually fighting with other rhinos. So as long as all the individuals in the population are dehorned, then it is actually no issue whatsoever to their natural behavior and movement. Sinak, well, why paint the rhino horns? It's actually that purple spray you see there. I'm trying to think of the human equivalent. Mercurochrome, methylate. It's just a little antiseptic that's sprayed on there, just around the edges and stuff, so they don't get an infection. Mr. Zero, which animals get poached that is not common knowledge? Well, you've got quite a lot of animals that get poached from the meat point of view. I think one that a lot of people probably don't know is actually poached quite heavily, and that's purely for food, is porcupines. They're considered very, very tasty. They're a delicacy, and of course their quills can be quite valuable. So if you are ever on an African safari and you find they make lampshades out of porcupine quills, do not buy them, because generally those quills have come from illegally gained porcupine. Now, they are considered vermin in some areas, porcupine. They can do a lot of damage if you're a maize farmer, etc. But yes, I think that's probably an animal that is poached quite regularly for meat and for the quills that people don't know about. But don't worry, porcupines are still very numerous and not in danger whatsoever. Sinak, what do you think of the canned hunting, poaching / meat trade? And what do you think of the coronavirus and its link to poaching? Well, the coronavirus is a bit of a storm in a teacup. Yes, people have died, but if you look at the actual real statistics, you are really, really in danger if you're over 80 years old, you're male, you smoke, and you live in China. The rest of the world is pretty safe, and it's only really affecting elderly at the moment. So the common cold still kills a lot more people than the coronavirus. But I'll get back to the canned hunting, poaching. Well, so canned hunting is in theory not actually poaching, you know. It is the shooting of captive bred animals. It could be lions, it could be whatever, canned, that are hand reared generally, have very little fear of human beings, and are released into a small, or from a small enclosure into a slightly bigger enclosure for someone to hunt. Now, the illegal trade and legal trade in that, a lot of that's particularly with lions, lion bones and stuff for traditional medicine in the East. Of course, it is completely horrible, and that's another thing. If you are ever here and someone says, well, come cuddle a cub and take a photo, don't do it! Bad! Those animals will then be fiddled with and played with by tourists till they're about 2 years old, and then they're too big and too dangerous to pose for pictures and stuff like that, and then they go into that canned lion hunting business. So yes, it is very bad. In South Africa alone, there's far more captive bred lions than there are wild lions. There's about 6,000 to 8,000 captive bred lions in South Africa. Now, of course, it is quite a big question. Now, what do you do with all these lions? And the thing is that a lot of those canned lion farms and stuff, it all stems from being able to produce lots. Lions are actually very good breeders, and if you take their cubs away at a very young age, it immediately lets the female come to estrus again. So you can almost every 3 months get another litter of cubs. So, and traditionally people like posing and hugging little baby animals. They think it's cute, but of course, what is that, sketch cats? What if on the car and there's one looking over your shoulder? Oh wait, I might have missed something there. So yes, so the canned lion trade, it is ongoing. It isn't illegal in a lot of places. There are legally gained permits, etc. It's just not very ethical. So quite a lot of things that happen in the world are not ethical, but are still legal. Okay, let's have a look. What other questions have we got here? Cal 6, how's the Leadwood hyena population going? Well, we've been seeing a few of them around. However, the den is still not on Leadwood, unfortunately. It's on Zandspruit, which is the next door farm, and we are unfortunately not able to go there at the moment. So they seem to be doing well, and of course they've moved their den onto a farm where those wonderful 3 male lions, well, wonderful, but if you're a hyena, not so wonderful, are not currently. Linda M, how many cheetah cubbies are left? 2, so she's doing very, very well. Wium and Brian actually saw the cheetah cubbies on their way to SAST, where the new cameras are, last week, I think it was. Aha! There we go. I've been waiting to see this. Are the Melita pack still together, and have they found males yet? The Melita pack are still very much together and are having the absolute best time of it. They've stayed on the Rietspreid Game Reserve, which brings so much joy to my heart. And I actually got to spend a wonderful morning with them this very morning. And the wonderful Zander and Wium have put together a lovely, lovely little clip of the interaction we witnessed this morning. Now, wasn't that amazing? That was actually this very morning we were enjoying that wild dog sighting. So as we arrived on Leadwood this morning, we actually bumped them before we even got into the badger. And some of you might have seen, I just put up a picture of Mahloa, the Jack Russell, checking out her namesake while we drove in. So we found them, we waited, phoned my dad, I said, "Get here quickly! Come look after the wild dogs while I go get the badger." And that's what we did. And we spent a lovely morning with them, and before going off to see if we could find the lions, unfortunately, we weren't successful in tracking the lions. But it was really great to spend, we must have spent a good hour plus with the Melita pack this morning. We left them schnoozing in the shade as it got a little bit warmer. Okay, let's have a look. Yes, okay, now I got it, Sketch Cats. Yes, if you take a selfie and you're on a game drive vehicle and there's a wild lion behind you, that's okay. That is okay, as long as you are not picking up, cuddling, or walking with captive bred cats. Okay, let's see what other... Pam, we are not limited as such in the reserves we can traverse. In the Rietspreid Game Reserve, which is made up of 3 properties, we have traverse over all 3. The hyenas have actually left the reserve that we traverse in. So, like anywhere, there are, for the animals, and especially hyenas, there are no boundaries. But there are man-made boundaries that sometimes we just can't go across. But in total, we've got about 15,000 acres of traverse that we have in the Rietspreid Game Reserve. And of course, we are always working and looking to expand into new areas as soon as we have the capabilities and a slightly larger team. It's coming soon. Darcy Ann, do I know what organization tries to prevent leopard poaching in South Africa? Yes, Endangered Wildlife Trust also have a leopard program, particularly in the Soutpansberg. Last week we had Zach and Sam who'd been working for that leopard program up in the Soutpansberg, a couple of 100 kilometers to the north of us. However, Panthera is operational in South Africa, and I think Wildlife Act also has a leopard program. So the Panthera genetic program is they take as many genetic samples as they possibly can, and what they do with that is that they put into a database. So if a leopard skin or whatnot is actually confiscated and found, they can test the genetics and they can see where those leopards are coming from. and it so far seems the majority of those leopards are actually coming from outside of South Africa, in particular southern Tanzania and northern Mozambique, where that's where the genetics of a lot of these illegal skins are coming from. Okay, Linda, just a quick update on Hosanna, the movie of. We are in the process of negotiating for access to the areas where Hosanna is currently. As soon as I have the access, there will be more information. I don't want to get anyone too excited till I've got permission to go film there. Very important. Can't go sneaking about. The anti-poachers jump on us. Sinak, I'm not sure yet. As I said, we don't know whether we are going to get all the permissions we need to make the Hosanna movie, but fingers crossed. I'm confident. Let's just leave it at that. Okay. Any other questions relating to World Wildlife Day? Wildlife, painted dogs, pangolins, rhinos, ground hornbills, whatever you guys would like to ask me. Now is your opportunity for the next few minutes to ask me whatever questions you would like. Sinak, we will discuss the Hosanna movie more in detail once I have got the permissions. Then we can go forward with the next planning stage. So fingers crossed. Let's leave it at that. Noel, the cheetah has not been recollared. We're actually hoping that the next time the vets are available, we will actually remove the collar completely. The collar is no longer working, and Impy and Mabai have both established themselves very nicely in the reserve. So we feel that it's probably time for those collars to come up. The lions, both Hyena and Collar, the male lion, no longer have their collars. So they are collarless now, and it means we have to do some proper tracking to locate them, which gives me great joy, because there's nothing quite like waking up in the morning and going and tracking big cats on foot. Calcex, the warthogs, they were around here 5 minutes ago, but they've moved off, terrorizing Claw as always. Linda, how many painted dogs were released? 10. 2 adult females and 8 sub-adults. Now, they are currently roaming through the Rietsspruit. They've been spending quite a lot of time on Leadwood itself, around the houses, eating all the impala and inyala and stenbokkies that they can catch. Pam, can you reuse a collar once you change the batteries? No, so those collars are completely encased. You could probably reuse some parts of it, but you would have to break open the actual casing to replace the batteries. Dawn Whitefoot, no, questions are not only looked at from certain people. Unfortunately, I am by myself, so if I do miss your questions, I do apologize. When I'm talking to you, I'm not actually watching the questions, so some might slip through. So Dawn Whitefoot, aka Taffy Zumi, if you have a question, I'll keep a lookout for it. Joanne, we haven't had any leopard sightings recently. We have seen tracks. We did track a mating pair of leopards quite a long time, a week or two ago, and unfortunately we weren't able to find them. I think the male might have been the Horseshoe Male. Now, he's called the Horseshoe Male because he's got a very prominent rosette on his bottom that looks like a horseshoe. It's all the shape of a horseshoe, and I'm sure who the female was. We don't have lesser kudu on the live cam, Sinak. Only greater kudu in southern Africa. The lesser kudu you will only start seeing in Tanzania and further north. So no lesser kudu in, well, if they are, they're exotic. They have been brought in. Fern, I love vultures. How are they going conservation wise? Well, it's a bit of a sad story. There's an ongoing problem with vultures throughout Africa. We've had some really big bad poisonings all over Africa recently, and of course those vultures are such a vital cog in the ecosystem and sort of cleaning up the scraps and helping prevent disease. But in a lot of cultures, vulture bones, vulture eyes, vulture parts are used in traditional medicine. One of the more common beliefs from the tribes in this area is that if you eat a vulture's eyes, you can see into the future and you can see what is coming. Of course, it is absolute twaddle, but yes, it is a problem, the vulture poisonings. Touch wood, there hasn't been one in a couple of weeks in our area. Wium and I actually found a vulture that was poisoned at one of the lion kills. Quite often they can be poisoned hundreds of kilometers from here, and obviously the poison, depending on how much they've eaten, takes effect while they fly. And so generally what happens when we do unfortunately find vultures like that is we will burn the carcass, and that's to ensure no other animals feed on it. And that's the sad truth of it. Cal 6, do we get any woodlands kingfishers here? Yes, we actually haven't had a lot of woodlands kingfishers this year, but yes, we do get woodlands kingfishers in the garden sometimes. Mr. Zero, when do the European birds fly home? Oh, I just heard a European bee flying high up there somewhere. It all depends. Certain species will travel at different times, but the first of them will probably be heading shortly towards the end of this month. Now, of course, a lot of these movements are dependent on local rain and other things like that. Darcy, I've seen very few European rollers this year. I saw a couple in the Kleseri a couple of weekends ago, but as a general rule, I have not seen many European rollers this year. It has been very quiet on the woodlands kingfisher European rollers. I haven't seen many steppe eagles. I haven't seen booted eagle this year. I haven't seen lesser spotted eagle, and that's not to say that they're not here. They're just not in the area I am. So when I went into the Kleseri, I saw lots of actually steppe eagles and lesser spotted eagles, and I saw a couple of European rollers. Now, local rainfalls can affect where these birds move to. So of course that's why they're here. There's a wonderful noise. I don't know if you can hear that. In South Africa is referred to as a Johannesburg fish eagle, or a car alarm. Cal6, yes, we do. Yes, it seems like it is a car alarm calling. We do get Wahlberg's eagles here. We have actually seen Wahlberg's, although, as I say, we haven't seen a lot of the other eagles, but there's been a huge amount of common buzzards. They used to be called steppe buzzards, and they migrate from the steppes of Mongolia and Russia down to southern Africa. Maddie, I don't think the bird netting in Europe is more of a problem. One of the birds that migrates quite a big distance that is got real big problems with netting is the Amma falcons, and they get netted in their thousands in India for food. But yes, no, I don't think the smaller birds are getting netted too much. Oh, there it goes again. Wah, wah, wah. Sorry, it's going straight through me. Okay guys, we're getting very close to the end of today's show, so we're going to take a few more questions. So please get your questions in as quickly as possible. There we go. Kengelfus, millions of vultures have died in India and Africa as vets use a painkiller for cattle. That was, yes, there was a problem in the past, but most of the vets, the medicine and stuff given to domestic cattle and stuff that now is vulture friendly. So yes, that was a problem in the past, particularly in the 70s and 80s. Cal6, yes, we do get servals. I haven't seen one for a while. I've seen a caracal probably more recently than I've seen a serval on Leadwood. But yes, they are both. You got to remember, at this time of the year, lots of high green grass. It makes seeing those little cats quite difficult. So winter is the time to really get those really nice serval and caracal sightings. Janet, yes, indeedy, we will be adding a more story about the female cheetah. So we've done the lion catch up, the Tales of Two Mothers at the new format last weekend, and we're going to be focusing on searching for Mabai and those two beautiful cubs, and catching up with Impy when we get back from James and Kirsten's nuptials. And on that note, it's been absolutely splendid. It's been great having you on this episode of Animal World Live with me, your host, Brent Smith. Go have a fantastic morning, evening, day, middle of the night, wherever you might be in the world, and we'll see you next week at 3 p.m. Central African Time.
Thank you.